RoadTrailRun contributor Derek LI in Singapore gives us his first run impressions of the Nike Tempo Next Percent, which should retail for about $200 in the US and should release in August. It is now available in Hong Kong and China.
Hello, this is Derek from RoadTrailRun. I'm going to be doing a first impressions review of the Nike Air Zoom Tempo Next Percent. It uses a Flyknit upper, a combination of ZoomX and React in the midsole, together with the famous AirPods, and rubber on the outsole. Okay, let's start with the upper. The upper is actually quite a thin knitted material. It's quite plasticky. It doesn't stretch a whole lot. Okay. The toe box actually has a bit of an internal laminate to kind of keep the volume up front. In the midfoot, I'm not sure if you can see very clearly, but there is actually some material on the inside of the knit, and it extends across both sides and integrates with the eyelets of the laces, and this actually helps to wrap the foot very snugly when you're wearing it. In the heel, there is a bit of some cushioning around the heel, and actually a fairly soft heel counter, not very much. Overall, the fit is quite narrow, especially in the heel and midfoot. I don't have the Alphafly to compare it with, but I would expect the fit to be quite similar in that respect. The forefoot is actually quite generous. This fits true to size for me, and with my feet in the shoes, with relatively thin socks because of the narrow midfoot, I get about a thumb's length in front of the toes, which is what I like. There is actually very little space in front of the pinky toe in this shoe, so it's just about right for a trainer. In terms of the ride, there is actually a nylon plate in the shoe, so you can see it's actually a little bit stiff, but not as stiff as what you would expect in, say, a Zoom Fly or a Vaporfly. So it does still flex a fair bit, but not too much. Okay, I would say having run in this shoe, you do feel the air zoom pods quite a lot when you're running at slower paces or even walking around, and there is quite a steep tip-off point because the ZoomX here is very soft in the forefoot, and you've got a relatively firmer air pod under the balls of your feet, so when you kind of roll forward, this part suddenly just drops off, and that's what causes the forward tipping, and that's what makes this shoe pretty special to me. Okay, it's quite a nice shoe. It weighs in at 259 grams for a US 9.5, so just about 9 ounces. Very, very competitive weight for this amount of stack. Okay, I haven't actually measured the stack yet, but if you compare that to the Endorphin Shift, which is Saucony's maximally cushioned trainer, you can see actually it's not very, very clear, but if I put them side by side, the Tempo Next Percent actually has higher stack in the heel than the Endorphin Shift, and maybe slightly higher stack in the forefoot, or just about the same amount. Okay, so that's a huge amount of stack, and with that in mind, the Endorphin Shift weighs 2 ounces more than the Tempo Next Percent. So that's a huge amount of weight savings for such a cushioned shoe. I've taken it for one easy run and one slightly faster tempo-ish run. It handles all the paces really, really well. So I'm very, very happy with this shoe. And another comparison would be maybe to the ASICS Glideride. Again, quite a heavy shoe compared to the Tempo Next Percent, but you can see the stacks are quite similar. Tempo is still thicker. It's not as bouncy or springy as the Glideride, not as squishy, but there is a lot better rolling and tipping in this shoe than the Glideride. As good, I would say, as good as the speed roll is in the Endorphin shift, the Tempo Next Percent just seems to make the forward tipping and rolling through a little bit easier. A bit of that might be due to the weight difference, but I think the design is really good in the Tempo Next Percent. Sometimes you're never quite sure what you get in a shoe. My experiences have been a bit hit and miss with the Flyknits. I found things like the Epic React and Infinity React a bit tough to get the right fit. And when you add Flyknit with a neon nylon plate, plus ZoomX, plus React, plus AirPods, you really start to wonder if maybe they tried to put too many things together. But this shoe really came together really well for me. Okay. Another comparison would be, some people have asked this, how it compares to the Zoom Fly. I don't have the Zoom Fly 3 with me here, but you can see there's a lot of stack difference in the forefoot and the heel, even with the Zoom Fly 2. In terms of the fit, I would say the Zoom Fly 2 actually has a kind of wider fit across the midfoot compared to the Tempo Next Percent, so I do expect it to be a bit more snug in the Tempo Next Percent. Okay. Otherwise, lengthwise they're about the same. If you wear size 9, for example, in the Zoom Fly 2, you probably should just go with the size 9 for this. Okay, so the sizing wise is quite predictable in that sense. I have to say, having run 2 runs in this shoe, wearing a Zoom Fly now, the Zoom Fly feels like a streak to me at this point, given how much cushioning there is in this shoe. So I'm going to be putting a lot more miles on this shoe, have a long run scheduled for tomorrow, and we'll have a formal review coming up on RoadTrailRun pretty soon. Stay tuned.